Alright, maybe it's just me, but I get super anxious about forgetting important gear when I'm going on shoots, especially if it's for an important event, a client, or for traveling. To minimize this, I decided to set up a basic system a while ago where I inventorized and automated what I needed for different kinds of shoots. Here, I'll show you how it works, so hopefully it can help you as well. Later on, you'll also see how you can download it and use it right away. First of all, the tool. Notion is a productivity tool used mainly for note-taking that has a very powerful feature, which is creating databases. It is free, so if you haven't used it before, you can just go and create an account. Beware though, because since it's quite a powerful tool, it can be overwhelming, and it certainly was for me. For that reason, I created this system only using what fits for me and nothing else. So less fluff, let's say. If you are an experienced Notion user, you'll probably notice that there is a lot of room for improvement here, and yeah, you're probably right. I keep on fine-tuning this tool as I get new cases for it, so I don't try to kill a fly with a bazooka. If you plan to use it, take it as a base and add or remove stuff as you see fit. It all has to fit your own personal experience. Next up, we have the tutorial, or the actual creation of the template. Keep in mind that I will show you how to make it from scratch, but of course if you just want to download and use it right away, feel free to skip ahead in the video where I will explain how to do that. The very first thing I do this for this page specifically is go to the top right and click on full width. That way we'll have a little bit more space horizontally to work on this. Next up is the actual creation of the database, for which you need to just press on slash and then write database and select inline. That will create a blank database that you can just use for anything you want. In this case, we'll use it for our camera gear packing list, and that's our name. Next up, before you even start to use it, before you even start adding anything, what I would recommend is to start adding the structure of the database. For this, I've structured mine into 3 pieces of information that are important for the gear itself and a few others that are for just knowing where you are in the process. The first one is already created, so that's a win, and that's the name. The second one, we will not use tags, so I will delete this property, and what I'm gonna do is create the category, because each item that you have in your list will be a category, will be something. So let's start with that. The element will be select, and we will call it category. And then you're done with this. The next element I'm gonna create here is where I'm gonna be packing each of the items, and I'm gonna create for that a multi-select that will be called pack in. That way I will be able to know where I'm putting stuff. And from this point on, it's just about checkboxes. First of all, let me create the categories and the packed in, just to show you an example. First off, let me edit the property here and add an option. And in category, we'll have, for example, camera bodies. We will have lenses. We will have accessories. And maybe that's about it. In packed in, we can have a few options. For example, we can have a camera pouch. You can have a backpack and many others. That's about it for the basic information about each of the items that you're gonna pack. But some of the items may need certain pieces of information, and you need to know where in the process they are. And for this, we're gonna add 4 more columns, and these will be just checkboxes that will tell you more or less where you are. First of all, the on this trip checkbox. So we add a checkbox on this trip, which should basically tell you, is this item on the trip that you're gonna make or not? Because I don't expect people to be bringing all of their gear to all of the trips, and if you're doing that, you're kind of crazy, but you do you. The next one will be another checkbox that will be called needs charging, which pretty much tell us if it's a piece of gear that needs charging before taking it to the trip, so that you're ready for that. The third one will be another checkbox, and this checkbox we will call charged. Yeah, because some items will need charging, but then you need to know if that item was charged. And last but not least, the most important checkbox here will be the one called packed, because this one will in the end tell you if the certain piece of gear that you have just selected is packed or not. With this, you have the basic structure for your database, and with this you can do everything else. So let's start by adding a couple of items here on the list. First, let's put a camera body, camera A, let's call it. It will be a camera body. So let's select camera body as a category, and let's say we're packing this in our backpack. It will be on the strip. The rest you don't need to add, except maybe the needs charging, but camera doesn't need charging. The part that needs charging though are the batteries, so let's add them. They are packed also in the backpack and needs charging. Yes, every time you're going on a trip, this needs to be charged. Let's add another one just for the example. Remember that in packed in, you can pick multiple things, so a camera pouch can be inside a backpack, and that would make the lens be in both of them. This was not yet on the strip, doesn't need charging, and then that's it. So let's say this is your basic database, and from this point on, it's just about visualizing in the right way at the right moment that you need. For this, I create many views, so that depending on where I am in the process of packing, I will use different ones. The first one I will use is if something is on the trip. And this is where all of these checkboxes come into play. So let's start by creating the first list. The first list just creates something that just shows you everything, and you just want to see everything, but with certain conditions. So first of all, let's change the properties so that you can mark stuff to be on the trip or not here. Let's click on this icon right here for the on this trip, and let's move it to right next to the name, and then you will see it on the left part. And with that, you will be able to mark what has been added to the trip. So in this case, let's say you're crazy and you just want to bring batteries to the trip. Another thing I do here is just organize it a bit better into groups of category. That way I know that all my accessories are there, or all my camera bodies are packed, or which of all my lenses are packed as well. From this point on, you can move to the next list, which will be to see what items that are on a trip need some charging. So let's create another list, and in this list we want to do some filtering. We just want to see the items that need charging, so need charging is checked. Then also it's important to change a little bit the properties so that the charge property is right next to the name, move it to the left, and then that's it. If this is charged, then it will be marked right here as soon as I charge it. Now, also another thing that you're seeing probably is that at the top, all of the tabs are called the same, but this is not really that good, of course, because you don't know what's happening, right? So first of all, let me change the name of the table to call all gear. The first list will be pick for trip. The third one will be charged. And last but not least, the important one here is the items that you do want to pack. So this last list that I'm going to add, which I'm going to name right away, will be called items to pack. And this list is the important one because after you pick something that needs to be on the trip and after you have charged, you need to pack it. And for this, first of all, let's group it by places where they are packed. So by packed in, that way you pack your backpack first and then you pack your camera pouch, for example. We go back, do some filtering. You don't need to see everything, so you only need to see what's first of all on this trip. Yes, and as always in the properties, you need to make sure that there is some action here that's going on. In this case, you want to pack, so let's select the pack one, move it right next to the name, and this pretty much will tell you what are you packing. So let's say you put something on your backpack, you click here, and then that marks this as packed. One important thing that I see I'm forgetting is to remove this item from this list once you already have packed it, because in the process of packing, you really don't want to be confused with many things on screen. So let's actually do some filtering here as well. So you go to filtering and you only want to see what has been packed, what hasn't been packed yet. So like this. So let's say you want to pack the batteries, you will click here and they will disappear from the list. But what happens if you want to see what you already have packed? Of course, you can see to all gear and see everything, but at some point, especially when you have a lot of gear, this can become a little bit monstrous. So I recommend having one extra last list where we'll be able to see everything that has been packed already. For this, actually, let me not create it from scratch. I will remove it. And what I'm going to do is the items to pack will be duplicated. And here I'm going to call it packed items. And what I'm going to show is on this trip and packed, not unchecked, but checked. And then we'll be able to see what is already packed in the backpack, and then you will see that it is the batteries for camera A. One last thing I do is just move this tab all the way to the right, because this list I actually do sequentially. First of all, I open the pick items for this trip, I select which items need to be here, I select which ones are charged, I pack them, and then I double check if they are packed or not. And this also is good when you are coming back from a trip, for example, or from a shoot. Now let me do a few cosmetic changes and show you the end result and probably how you're gonna see it when you download it from the website. So here we go. This is it. This is the end result of what I'm using already right now. As you can see, and as I already showed you before, we have items to shoot, we have select charged items, we have the items to pack, packed items, and all. So I just added some examples here. This is what you're gonna find on the website most likely, unless I update this template. The one last thing that I have added here, but it is not in the explanation, is that I just added a button that pretty much resets the list every time you come back from a trip or from a shoot. Because of course, once you went through all of this, you went to the shoot and you come back and you have a shoot, let's say the next day, you want this list to be fresh. And that is exactly what this button does. Now, if you really don't want to go through the process of creating a new page from scratch, don't worry. You can also click on the link in the description, which should take you to my website where you will be able to download it completely for free. You will need Notion to use it though, so make sure you create an account. The goal in the end is to reduce stress, anxiety, and to minimize forgetting important stuff so that we can focus on the right things, shooting for example. So I hope that this guide and template are as useful to you as they are for me, and who knows, maybe you even find a different case for it. If you do that, share it in the comments. Have fun!